All right, Danny, did this win, it's just one win, but still, did it change how you view the Knicks?
No. That was the best win of the year for a Knicks team that I am convinced cannot win the title. And I also don't think they can win the East. Now, is there a 1 in whatever chance of them winning the East? Sure, but I would put them behind Boston, behind Cleveland, and behind Detroit. I think what they are doing recently defensively is very impressive. I just don't believe in it. Like
Why?
Because in the playoffs, your rotation shrinks.
Yeah.
Right? And they're playing more depth than they ever did under Tibbs. And Mike Brown is a great defensive coach, but Tibbs is also a great defensive coach. And in the playoffs, you're not going to take Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson off the floor. They're your two best players, nor should you. But those guys are not good defensive players. Cat played well in that game against the Spurs defensively, and I will give him credit that at times and in stretches of this season, it has seemed like he has played with more effort than he normally does defensively. I will give him credit for that. But he still is lost defensively often. And I was trying to figure out the best way to quantify it. And so I just did, you can follow this, I think. Good teams, players who play a lot of minutes. Those were the filters that I put on it, right?
Yeah.
So teams with 35 or more wins, players on those teams who are playing more than 30 minutes per game.
Got it.
Worst field goal percentage allowed based on the guy who's shooting closest to them. They're two of the 3 worst players in the league. And we've all watched the Knicks with these guys in the postseason. They get targeted. And so I think it is a fundamentally flawed assembly of talent. And I can't even think, and you guys are great NBA historians, so maybe you have like an obvious comp for this that I just can't come up with. When your best players are not two-way players, I think it's really tough to win in the postseason. And so I think that puts a ceiling on this team. And that doesn't even get into the fact that this has been a very streaky team this year. They started 23-9, then they lost 9 of 11, then they won 8 straight, then they lost 4 of 5. Now they're on a good stretch right now. I just don't trust this team to be consistent, and I really don't trust their 2 best players on the defensive end of the floor.
So if you are going to build a team with those 2 guys as your offensive centerpieces, this is the exact team you would build, though. That everyone else in your rotation is an excellent defensive player, is long.
Robinson, Hart.
Josh Hart, he had a really rough shooting night yesterday. He cleaned it up a little bit at the end, but he does everything other than shoot. OG Anunoby is an excellent defender. Mikal Bridges is a very good defender. Mitchell Robinson is a great rebounder, a good defender, and so your guy Alvarado is good, in those spots. So that is the type of team you would build out. My immediate reaction to your question, 2 best players, neither are great defenders. I thought of the 11 Mavs. They're kind of an aberrant champion. Dirk, obviously, not a defender. The problem is, did they have a definitional second best player on that team?
I mean, maybe probably Jason Terry.
Jason Terry, yeah. I thought you were going to say old Jason Kidd, but it probably was Jason Terry. And you filled in the blanks elsewhere. But I don't know. You said that I look at their season a little differently. They started great. They had a bad 3 weeks, and they've been great again. They were 24-9 to start the year, 23-9 technically, but the NBA Cup should count, but it doesn't.
Sure, that's fair. Yeah.
14-4 over the last 18, 2-9 in the middle. And Danny, when they've played the best teams in the league, they haven't dominated them, but that's winning more than 4 out of 7.
They've gotten dominated by the Pistons.
Who they beat in the playoffs last year.
Yep.
And so, this is the top 5 in each conference. They're 12-7, and the fact that they're 0-3 against the Pistons means they're 12-4 against the rest of the best teams in the league. And I could understand you saying you have them 4th in the East. I don't have them 4th in the East, but I could understand you saying that. If you were saying 4th in the East, and therefore I give them a 20% chance of coming out of that it's 30%, 25%, 25%, 20% for the teams above them. I don't know the argument as to why the Cavs will win the East and the Knicks can't win the East. I don't see it at all.
Well, listen, I think obviously I like the Cavs more, but I'm just saying in terms of power ranking them, I would have the Celtics, especially since it looks like Tatum is coming back, ahead of this team, and I would also have Detroit ahead of them. So if you want to say the fourth best team in the far lesser conference can also win the championship, that just seems like
I mean, it sure seems like that's what almost happened last year before Halliburton blew out his Achilles.
Yeah, no,
they were the fourth best team in the lesser conference, and they're winning Game 7 of the finals before their star player goes down. Like, it literally, we are maybe this far from it happening last year.
But you don't think that's arguing the exception over the rule? I don't think that's about to become the norm in the NBA.
But
go ahead,
I think, look, as far as the defense, of course, most teams that win championships or even come close are very good defensive teams. The only team this year that's a legit contender that's not near the top 10 defensively is Denver.
And they're the best offensive team by far.
Right, exactly. Now, they did win it with Jokic, who's not a horrible defender, but not a good defender, and Murray as their two best players, and an undersized guard, so two guys that aren't great defenders. You mentioned Dallas. I mean, Golden State has Steph, second best player. Clay or Draymond was obviously a great defender. But I think the only team that I would put ahead of the Knicks in the East is Detroit. And even some people can legitimately say, well, they beat Detroit last year. Now, I think Detroit's gotten a lot better. I think that Detroit team last year wasn't whole like this year's team should be. And so I think Detroit's too physical for them. Anybody else, I mean, they beat Boston last year. So even with Tatum back, particularly if he's not quite what he has been in the past initially, they should be able to they can beat Boston. And Cleveland's had all types of playoff problems, and so is Harden. So, and that's another team. Harden and Donovan Mitchell, not great defenders too. So that you could put your problem with the Knicks onto the Cavs as well. But the Cavs, you talk about Towns and Brunson, they haven't been off the floor in these past 18 games. I mean, their defensive rating best in the league, and it has been 103. Like, that is an incredible session. OKC is the best defense in the league with a defensive rating of 107.
Yep.
So the Knicks have played far better than OKC over the last month and a half. And here's some of the teams they beat. Toronto, very good, or good. The Lakers, Denver, Boston, Philadelphia, Houston, and San Antonio. And so, I'm not here to say the Knicks are about to win the championship, but I definitely give them a very good shot. I'll even say, Danny, they should win the East. They should, listen, they fired their coach after making it to the Eastern Conference Finals, so they came into the year as the only thing that is a success. Okay. I mean, if you just look at the teams on paper, Boston, even with Tatum back, we just going to give him, he's going to be 80%, not quite his full self. Maybe it's even a little chemistry issue because you're bringing him in now. Detroit, still young. One guy that can create his own shot, one legitimate scorer. And then Cleveland, Harden, we know, struggles in the playoffs in the big games at a lot of the times. And their team has been soft in the playoffs. Like, on paper, the Knicks should win the East this year. I got to give them a shot.
Listen, I would just push back on the Cleveland thing. I think Mobley's their second best player, and he's obviously
a great defender,
an excellent defensive player. So I think they are a more well-rounded team than the Knicks. And I said it on the front end. If you think that this stretch of basketball from the Knicks defensively is what they're going to be, then they can win it. I am very skeptical that they will translate this regular season defensive prowess where they're playing deeper guys and playing very hard into the playoffs. I will be surprised.
I just want to add one last thing before we move on. It is correct and historically accurate to say you can't win 4 rounds without a very good defense. The outlier is one of the Lakers teams when they were sleepwalking because they had already won a championship and they knew they could turn it on. That is historically true. What is also true is these teams that don't have a history of postseason success surprise us in the regular seasons they've had, and the one question we have about them is, man, but they sure struggle to create offense outside of one guy. Not only don't win championships, often get clipped early in the playoffs. That was Houston's story last year, and that would be my concern about Detroit. Is that Detroit is, to win 4 rounds, you need an excellent defense, but because what's baked in is, to get to the 4th round, you've had a pretty damn good offense along the way. And I understand Şengün and Cade are very different players, but it was one guy on Houston that kind of was the hub of all offense last year. And then in that playoff series, all of a sudden it's like, man, you're living and dying with Jalen Green or with guys who just can't create their own shot. That would be my concern with Detroit. My concern with Cleveland's well-founded, it's similar as yours. I think Boston, if Tatum comes back, and he might be coming back this week, will be the team to beat. But right after them, I would have the Knicks.
Largest loss of the season for the Spurs, courtesy of the Knicks. All right, head out to the West. We're 3 minutes into the game. SGA and Joker get into it a little bit. SGA is back. He had 36 on the night, but overshadowed by a little bit of a scuffle in the 3rd quarter when Joker's headed back up the floor and gets hip-checked by Lou Dort, who was shocked that he got called for a foul. I'd be even more shocked he got thrown out of the game, and Brew wants him suspended.
One game.
Your reaction, Danny?
That was an interesting way for Dagnall to approach that postgame. I almost wonder, they're a very smart organization, maybe the smartest organization in the league. I've almost wondered if he was told to say something like that as a defense.
He knew what he was doing.
For it. I think he knew what he was doing, exactly, to try to shift the conversation away from the fact that Lou Dort is trying to take the mantle from Draymond as the dirtiest player in the NBA.
Whoa, that's the meanest thing anyone said about Dylan Brooks in years.
Also,
Brooks is on the edge.
He's also in the conversation. But it's an indefensible action that I also, to be totally candid with you, and maybe this makes me a bit of a sports Neanderthal, I don't care about all that much because I watched those 2 teams play in the playoffs last year. It was an incredible series. I hope we get it again this year. They play again 1 week from tonight. And anything that injects a little bit of sports hatred and rivalry and angst into regular season basketball that will then build into the playoffs is inherently good for the sport. So that is an act that I cannot defend, but as a viewer of entertainment, I'm okay with it happening.
Let me ask you this, because Brew, we talked about this earlier. Brew and I are both, not horrified by it, but really don't like it. You said he should be suspended. I'll be totally honest. I was going to say something similar, and I was like, Brew's going to call me soft. I'm not saying it. And then you said it. So we're on the same page there. I'm curious if you agree with me if we push it forward. I think this has a tangible negative impact on the Thunder's ability to defend their championship. Because I think now, and the comp I used before was the Eagles had been kind of getting away with stuff on the tush push forever. It didn't matter. And then there was the one national television game where they're like, the broadcast, I don't know how to officiate it. Blandino came on. He's like, I'm sick of this. And it felt like they weren't as good at that anymore. They got called for a couple false starts. Jalen they didn't blow it dead the one time he fumbled. It really impacted them. I think the Thunder have been and Dort in particular, has been getting away with a lot of borderline stuff for years. And doing this in that game on that stage to that player now is going to change how referees officiate them, which I think will have a tangible impact on their ability to go back to the finals.
Yeah, I think that's way overstated. If you told me that they were going to officiate how SGA is called as a foul hunter, foul merchant a little bit, if you think that's related to
I think it's all related.
But
Doris on Sunday, all of a sudden seeing, what was it, Anthony Edwards, somebody push off, and Doris is like, SGA does that all the time. It just feels like the knives might be sharpened a bit for the Thunder at the worst possible time for them as we get ready to watch them try to defend their title.
Yeah, but we saw it in the playoffs, though, that SGA didn't quite get the same calls that he got in the regular season and the postseason, and he figured out how to still be awesome because he's an awesome player. And, they are an incredible defensive team. I think the Thunder's superpower is every single player they put on the court is good at defense. Every single one. They do not have a minus defensive player at any. There's no just that's the designated three-point shooter who can't guard anybody. They're all good at defense. So, what would be, other than a one-game suspension, they immediately threw him out of the game. They called the foul. It's not I don't know that Dort has been getting away with plays like that
Oh, Dort's gotten away with a lot of things that
He kicks his leg out. He trips guys. He kind of fell into Wemby. I'm saying, but that reputation is already there and surrounds him. So if you're saying they're going to call more fouls on Lou Dort, sure, I guess that is possible, and we'll see. But I don't know that negatively impacts the Thunder, who are just an awesome defense with any 5 guys they put out there.
Yeah, I do. This is where I part ways with you, Nick. I don't necessarily think this is going to spill over into the future. You got other teams. Detroit is very similar. I mean, Detroit is a lot like OKC. They don't shoot it as well as OKC, and they don't have other shot creators. But, I mean, the defense, just running a bunch of guys at you that defend. They play off one guy, SGA. There are teams that get physical in the league. So I'm just curious. That would be interesting to me. And what these teams do is they get physical from the beginning. And like you said, the refs just almost naturally, it's like I can't call a foul down every time. So I don't think it's going to change anything for OKC. But I do think this was a dirty play. That I thought, Danny, Dagnall should privately in the locker room be like, I don't ever want to see any of our players tripping a guy on purpose like that.
Yeah, I don't think that they're supporting that internally in Oklahoma City. I said in the front, it's indefensible, right? It's an indefensible play.
You should, I just think.
He defended it. That's the weird part.
I get it publicly.
Coaches always will publicly defend their guys.
We don't want to see it. Because you could have heard, look, I get it. It's just a trip. We've all been tripped as kids. But you never know, man.
We had Al Harrington out an hour earlier, and he said, basically it was no big deal. And I just vehemently disagree. I think that is so much more dangerous than a guy driving to the basket and you going for a block, just whack him straight in the head.
Anticipating contact.
Yes.
I mean, we've seen guys non-contact injuries, unanticipated
and he has the knee injury.
Now that I'm not gonna call Dort like an assassin. Like he
don't
knew
think he was trying.
This is the injured part of his body. But I think the reason Joker had that type of fury in his eyes was he knew how much he was at risk.
Right.
And an underrated skill of legendary athletes is their ability to avoid injuries. Like avoid precarious spots.
How to
fall, how to see where, this could be a spot where my ankle gets rolled up. I'm not going in there, which is why I think he got so mad. Because he didn't anticipate that somebody all of a sudden was going to stop and go backwards.
You could land funny on it. As a guy puts his foot out to trip you could land funny on that and sprain an ankle.
What is KW about to say?
Nothing.
What are you about to say?
I didn't say anything. I was just saying I did take my dog for a walk in the woods, and I was navigating the same type of stuff. I put my ankle there, and I thought you called me like a superstar, legendary athlete.
No.
I thought it was.
That's what you were going to say.
I felt nice about it. I felt great about it.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out with us on First Things First. We go to LA, where the Lakers snapped a 3-game losing streak by winning back-to-back games this weekend against the Warriors and the Kings. So, consider the opponents. But if we take a look at the Western Conference standings, the record on paper, not so bad. 36-24, tied with Denver, who a lot of people think can win it all. One fewer win, than the 3 seed Houston Rockets. So we got Willie Colon and Al Harrington out here, made his FTF debut earlier today. Al, did the Lakers 2-0 weekend mean all is well for the Lakers?
I wouldn't say that, but at the end of the day, they've been having a great season anyway. They've been in the mix the entire time. I mean, they got 2 of the greatest players to ever play basketball, and then they got a heck of a sidekick in AR. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, I have a graphic where they have a top 10 offense this year. You know what I'm saying? They're shooting 50% from field goal percentage, which is first in the league. Their offensive rating is 7th, and then their attempts a game is 2nd in the league. So if you can have that type of efficient offense, you should be a tough out. In the playoffs, which is what they building towards.
So I guess my question, and you played, it's very hard for me to pinpoint teams, and I was talking about this with the Knicks earlier with the guys, is like, if your best players are not two-way players, because those guys are going to always be on the floor,
right.
And just it gets tougher to play great offense in the postseason, right? It's more physical, more half court, less running. Like, I don't know that you can win when your top 3 guys, when none of them are great defensive players. So, like, congratulations to the Lakers for their weekend,
Right.
but I still put, like, a very low ceiling on what they can accomplish come, May and June.
So you said 3, so you put LeBron in there too?
As a top 3 guy on the Lakers?
Yeah, and bad defensively right now?
I mean, yeah, I don't think 41-year-old
I know he don't want to hear that.
I'm sorry if you're watching LeBron.
It tends to hurt sometimes.
Oh, I know
but
he's sensitive, man. He don't want to hear that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but is 41-year-old LeBron maxing out defensively right now? I don't think so.
I agree with you, man. Like, the fact that their 3 best players are not locked in on the defensive end, it will be very tough for them to compete for an NBA championship this year. Their only hope is that they're going to have to outscore teams night in and night out, and that's their advantage. Is that in the playoffs when defense do get tough, guys that can make tough shots and create shots on their own. So yes, check, they'll be able to do that, but will they be able to do that consistently enough to actually win series? I'm not sure.
Yeah, and this is why I see these 2 wins as get-right games. All right, you talk about Golden State, they didn't have Steph. Steph's dealing with the knee. They're 8th in the West. You talk about Sacramento, it's pretty much a tank mode, let's be honest. They had 20 turnovers against the Lakers. I mean, they're god-awful. But I think if you're looking at the Lakers right now, they haven't had a statement game. You know what I mean, DP? You know what I mean? Like a game you say, hey, man, this is a game where we're going to put our flag on. Their last statement game was, I think, October 29th against the Wolves, right? And so now, when you look at their schedule, they need a statement game coming on. If we're talking about this team being legit, look at the schedule coming up right here. I mean, you talk about the Nuggets twice. You talk about the Knicks. You talk about the Rockets. You talk about all these teams, the Wolves. I mean, these are all contenders right now. So if you're the Lakers, I'm looking at you like, yeah, I want to believe at the momentum, right? I want to believe at everything we've seen thus far. But you're talking about a record right now, and I have another graphic. This is what they look like against teams under 500, right? Versus teams above 500. And so they feast off the bottom feeders. The top dog is where they have their trouble. So more than anything, Al, when you start getting momentum, and especially in March, and the playoffs are a couple weeks away, you have to start looking like something. Right. I just don't know what the Lakers look like.
And I agree to that point. I think they need more than just 1 game, actually.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? With it being 16 games left, I think that, and to your point that there are a lot of good playoff caliber teams that they'll be playing against, I think they probably need to win maybe 12 out of those 16 games to kind of get the momentum that we're talking about that they can take into the playoffs and hopefully be dangerous.
If they can get 4 out of that 6, we're looking at the Lakers in a whole different light.
Correct. So that's what I was going to ask. You think that, because it's a good way to put it. Like they've beaten up on the bad teams, and so then in the playoffs you're going to play the good teams, and so it's probably going to play a part. Like it's a very simplistic way, but it's very accurate. But so is there anything they can actually prove though in the regular season? Because they're going to be in the playoffs. Right. I don't think anyone, no matter what they do in that March schedule, if they got matched up with Denver, would be like, yeah, I'm taking the Lakers to win 4 of 7. Certainly not against Oklahoma. Like maybe Houston. Like I'm just wondering who in the top 6 in the West, if they had a great month of March, would you actually pick the Lakers to beat in a first-round playoff series? Because I still personally am struggling. They'd have to run the table basically for me to really fundamentally change how I look. I
think to your point, I think the only team that I think they could potentially get is Houston.
Okay.
Just because for a lot of reasons. We feel like Houston isn't really a complete team, especially without having a point guard. So I would probably say that'd be the only team on that list that I would say they could potentially get. But, I just think from the beginning of this season, the entire time, like there hasn't just been the right kind of vibe and energy around that team that speaks that they're going to make a run in the playoffs or can even compete for a championship.
Well, I think part of the problem is DeAndre Ayton has been inconsistent, right? Yeah. They need him to be big. And sometimes he'll give you 20, the next night he'll give you 6 points. Right. If you're the Lakers right now searching for an identity, he has to be a part of that. And he's been so inconsistent. And I think that's throwing up their lineup where they're right now. We don't know. Outside of Luke and LeBron, it's a toss-up who's going to be the next big dog in that lineup. They don't have it.
And to your point, like I've never been like a huge fan of his or whatever, but like playing in LA and playing for a championship, he's not the guy. I hate to say that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I think every Lakers fan expects them to be looking for a new big man this offseason. And so, but that's the thing. How many more years left of LeBron do you have? 1, maybe, probably not even that. And so it's like you have to figure this out
right now.
So you're not getting a new big man.
Well, unless Jesus Christ is coming down and going to put on a Lakers uniform, I don't see it.
Okay, well then I think they're in a lot of trouble. That would be a huge story. That would be a huge story.
Come down here and get to the money.
Where the purple go? He runs the floor. Two-way player. All right, let's go to Milwaukee, where there is some big news coming in the NBA. Shams is reporting that Giannis is expected to make his return tonight. He's missed the Bucks' last 15 games with that right calf strain that happened back in late January on the 23rd. Also, of course, missed time in December for the same reason. So we've got a large body of work this year of the Bucks with Giannis and without. They're a 500 team with him, 15-15, 11-18 without him. So the expectations, and I will just say this. So listen, Giannis is one of my favorite basketball players ever, and I hope he's a Buck for life. And I have a lot of thoughts on this. The first of which is, none of the national media has any idea what they're talking about with Giannis.
What do you mean?
Everyone had him being traded.
Right.
I did. I wanted to be a Knick.
Everyone had him being traded.
I did.
He wasn't. And then when he wasn't traded, people were like, well, they're obviously going to shut him down.
Right.
And he's coming back.
Wrong game.
And he's coming back. So clearly no one has any idea what they're talking about with Giannis. And this is weird timing, though, because he's coming back tonight to play the Celtics. And if he was good enough to play tonight, I feel like he should have played yesterday against the Bulls, because they lost to the Bulls. And I don't know if we can show what they're in this range here. So they're the 11 seed, right? So they're two back in the loss column of the Hornets, who are playing great. They have the tiebreaker over them. They can get the tiebreaker over the Hawks. So those are the teams they really need to beat. And they just lost to the Bulls, and in 2 days they play the Hawks. So if I would just have imagined that Giannis should have come back yesterday, beat the Bulls, sit tonight against the Celtics so that he's rested for that game against Atlanta. Because the only path that the Bucks have is catching those teams there in front of them. So I'm sure Giannis will be great, but it's probably too little too late.
It's definitely too little too late. It's a testament to who he is as a player. You know what I'm saying? The fact that he still wants to play at this point in the season, because, the kind of growing feeling amongst these players in the league is like they're quick to shut it down, right? They're like, all right, let's wait.
That's not in his DNA. He wants to play.
That's not him, man. His integrity, he wants to play. He feels like if he's healthy, he's going to go out there and he's going to compete. With the Bucks in general, it just seems like they don't have a plan. Like, what is the real plan? Is the plan to make the playoffs? Is it to, trade him at some point? Is it to get a good player in this draft? Like, we just can't figure out what's going on there. It seems like there's just organized confusion. You know what I mean?
They went all in a bunch, and guys kept getting hurt.
But we're all in on what, really? You know what I'm saying? I mean, obviously you get rid of Dame Lillard in that amnesty thing, and when you did that eliminated you ever being able to get a really good player for the next 2 or 3 seasons. You know what I'm saying? So it's just a tough situation that the Bucks are in, and hope he doesn't get hurt. I hope this calf, because these calf strains have become, disastrous in regards to these guys end up tearing Achilles and different things like that. So we hope that doesn't happen to him, but, he's going to play hard. That's the one thing we know. He's going to play MVP level basketball, but I'm just not sure what the Bucks are trying to accomplish at this point.
Well, I think they're trying to get the final playing spot. They want to rival the Hornets. I think that's the plan. And the reason I don't think he played against the Bulls is I think they felt they were the better team, or they had enough to beat the Bulls. The Bulls showed up in the second half and caved their heads in. Nevertheless, if you're Giannis, he's their floor general. He's the one that everybody revolves around him. I think what's troubling right now for the Bucks, ever since his calf strain, they've been 8-7. You got Cam Thomas, you got some additions that pretty much be able to stabilize the team. Nevertheless, the magic is wearing off, and that's the problem. And so now when you talk about is it too late that he's coming back? The bottom line is he's back. And now they can't lose any more games.
Well, they're in a really tough spot. To Al's point, they don't have their own first round pick. They have the worst of the two between them and New Orleans' pick. And the teams below them are so bad that they probably can't tank to get below them.
Right.
So they may as well bring Giannis back, because if Giannis is healthy and Giannis wants to play,
he's going to play.
Of course.
Yeah.
Because then if you tell him that he's not playing, then he will demand it.
Right. Then he's really
right. So they're just in a really tough spot where, okay, they're going to try to catch Atlanta, they're going to try to catch Charlotte, and they're going to hope that Giannis can pull them there. And like you said, it's probably too little too late. But I got to be honest, I respect it.
I definitely respect it.
You respect
You
Giannis
have
coming
to.
back?
Yeah, like
he's a 90s 2000 kind of guy.
Could have played in your era.
Yeah, he wants to play. He wants to play the game. The game is the reward for him. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what throws me off with these guys with all this resting and stuff. I'm like, you already don't practice and then you don't want to play in the game? The game was the reason why we was doing it all, right? That's where you get the glory. That's where everybody come to watch, and you know what I'm saying? So he's one of those guys, man. He wants to put on a show night in and night out for his family, for his organization, for the fans. And, you know, for that, you know, I take my hat off to him.
Yeah, so I'm sure he'll be on a minutes restriction, but he will give everything he has for the minutes that he is out there on the court for the 11th seed Milwaukee Bucks.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.